Greetings comic lovers and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, from reviews of comics new and old to history to anecdotes to really wherever our whims take us. Vampirella has a movie adaptation from 1996 and it's terrible. At the time of this recording there's talk that there's a new film in the works, but you may not fully appreciate that unless you see this. I mean, if that ever comes to happen or not, but you need to see this to know what came before. Now, I don't talk about adaptations on their own a lot on this channel. There are plenty of channels that hone in on that, and I feel that sometimes the adaptations can take the spotlight away from the comics themselves, or sometimes the comics themselves find themselves having to conform to their adaptive counterparts. This movie, however, captivated me, and I feel like it's fallen down the memory hole a little bit, and I wanted to share some of it with you because wow.
Holy crap.
Holy. All things held sacred. Crap. Waste matter discharged from animal bowels.
It's a mess, and yet it is trying to be true to the character, but none of it works, and the quotes from the director and the writer are amazing. The lead singer of The Who is in this movie as Dracula, and he sings.
You won't need your old friends anymore. Come on, please, follow me.
The director of this, Jim Wynorski, described the film as the one film he regretted making, and his credits at the time he made that statement include films like The Hills Have Thighs, The Devil Wears Nada, Bear Wench Project 2, Scared Topless, Dino Croc vs. Super Gator, one that I actually really like and had seen beforehand and didn't know was him, Shopping Mall. He's got 104 director's credits, and this is the one he regrets, so you know that I had to watch it. And I have to say, after sitting through it, I can see why.
He just left. He's got some babe with him dressed up hot.
So I'm gonna deviate a bit from form, do something a bit outside of the norm, and tell you all about it. Because sharing is caring. But before we get started, I'm Sasha, and if you're enjoying this content, you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Join us on this comic book, and in this case, adaptation journey. The Vampirella movie was released in 1996 and was part of the Roger Corman Presents series. People had been trying to make a Vampirella movie for decades, and the rights just kept getting passed on and on. At one point, it was supposed to be a Hammer movie, and then it fell through, and it just kept going down and down till it ended up with Roger Corman and Jim Wynorski. He had his friend Gary Garani, who he described as a Vampirella aficionado, write the script. By the time they got to this, they had a 6-month time frame to get everything done, otherwise they were going to lose the rights, so no pressure. The quotes about this are amazing. Wynorski stated, "It was 110 every day. Everybody was gambling. They filmed this in Vegas. Everybody was up all night. Everyone was blurry-eyed. There was a thief on set who was stealing money. It was awful." He also described it as a film he cannot watch, and that he's only rewatched it because he had to give director's commentary for the DVD. Now, the writer, Garani, likes this movie. He stated, "Given how absurd anything called Vampirella would be, the movie certainly doesn't insult your intelligence. I think there's a nice emotional depth to the piece," says the person who wrote it. No bias there. Such depth in my writing. So this movie gives us Vampirella from space, so her first origin from Warren Publishing, where she's a vampire from the planet Draculon and the species of the Vampiri. She ends up traveling to Earth, where she finds that Dracula has been there for centuries, and that he sired this race of new vampires on Earth, who are different from the people in Draculon. They're like a hybrid, mutated version, but we're gonna be loose with our adaptation here. The movie starts off and right away smacks you with two important facts that are gonna stay with you. The actress playing Vampirella, Talisa Soto, is not right for the role at all. She comes across as stilted and unemotional when the script calls for her to have some big emotional moments and some pathos, and it just does not happen. Here she is mourning her stepfather's death. Second, the best part of this movie is hands down Roger Daltrey. Him playing Vlad, he is having the best time.
Council's ready for you.
The best. So Vlad and his disciples were being tried because they wanted to feed on other people rather than use the blood supplement. So they kill Vampirella, at this point in the story, Ella's stepdad, and they steal a ship and they go to Earth using footage from another one of Wynorski's movies. Specifically not of this Earth, but they run it in reverse. Gotta save that money somewhere. They were on a budget. Then it's present day. And please note that this awesome 90s vest Vlad was wearing with a high collar blouse is the same vest that our Van Helsing descendant and agent of Purge is wearing. And this is his theme. Oh yes, Fear the vampire hunters. This is Adam Van Helsing. He works for Purge, who are trying to hunt down Dracula's top agents because they know that he's planning something big. How they know that doesn't matter. Then they see something mysterious on the footage of the spacecraft that just returned from Mars, a bat just flying out of it. Could that be a vampire? Of course it is. It's Vampirella. Or at this point still just Ella. We then cut to a stereotypical nerd walking down alley carrying his new computer home when he's mugged, only to be saved by Ella. And oh boy, her costume, it's an experience. When my husband saw it, the first thing he said is, "Oh dear, she looks cold."
Gee, thanks. No offense, but are you some kind of... What's your name?
Things get weird here. Like, the kid just knows that she's a vampire despite the fact that she doesn't show her fangs or do anything really vampiric in the fight where she saves him. I guess they had a conversation on the way home. Then she starts describing stuff that we haven't been shown yet. So I'm just gonna tell you about it because actually it would make more sense if you re-edited this movie and put this stuff first. It would make it more cohesive. So what happened? She left to come to Earth to get vengeance on Vlad and his followers. She was given a lifetime supply of this blood supplement that was shrunk down so that she could wear it on her armlet. So she leaves, she gets on the ship, but then she hits an ion storm, and so the ship needs to land, so she lands on Mars, ends up sleeping there for centuries until she's found by that Mars crew. I guess they weren't following protocol because they don't report that they found anything, which allows her to hypnotize them so that they don't remember ever finding anything. I don't know how they explain her giant human-sized capsule, but whatever. So thankfully, this nerdy kid is studying a professor who spent his life trying to debunk supernatural phenomenon, specifically vampires, and of course it's one of the people who escaped with Vlad. So she kisses this kid for reasons.
I almost forgot something.
Ella. The vampire girl. Vampirella.
This is Trax. He's a professor now with a wife and kids. So are they actually his biological kids? Can vampires have kids, or is he just adopting them? We're never gonna have the answer to any of these questions, but we do know that he's been living life as a human man, or passing as one, and that he stays with a family for as long as he can. How does he explain the fact that he can't be around during the day? You should see the sunsuits. Okay, I'm gonna show you the sunsuits. This is one of the sunsuits that they have to wear to keep themselves safe. Does he wear that during the day? I have so many questions. So he's a professor who debunks supernatural phenomenon, specifically vampires, but he only holds his classes at night? Don't you think that the type of people who would take that course would be suspicious? He's turned over a new leaf and says he doesn't even talk to Vlad anymore. He's just trying to do his own thing, but it doesn't matter. Vampirella kills him anyway. It's when she gets to his house to stare at his now fatherless children that she looks around their room and sees that there's a poster on their wall for a rock star called Jamie Blood. Who is Vlad? Yes, Vlad is now a rock star, and his disguise is that he's got an extension clip-on in his hair, just one. He's also got a show in Las Vegas, and this information had to be tortured out of one of his generals that the Purge has captured. So you're telling me that he's a rock star. He's got posters. He's got a show in Vegas, and he looks the same, except for this one clip extension. And he's fought Adam and his dad before, so there would be pictures of him around, and they couldn't find him. Wow. But Vampirella can, and she can stare blankly while he sings his power ballad, Bleed for Me.
This is what's gonna be young blood.
Love it. Spotify won. He's gone full Vampire Lestat and Queen of the Damned, basically, and I love it. She allows him to seduce her, and I guess her plan is to drain him, but oh no, Purge shows up and he knocks her out and they both get captured. But Dracula, aka Vlad, decides, oh yes, I have powers, so he uses his telepathic abilities to force the driver to kind of run them off the road, which then knocks over both vans, and so he can try and escape. But first he tries to get Vampirella to come with him, and she looks like she's going to, but then she doesn't, and then she's gonna follow him, but then she stays because Adam's hurt. Okay. They're meant to have this deep, instant connection, and it's supposed to be full of drama because she's a vampire and he's a vampire hunter. But really, it's just like two potatoes staring at each other. That's the level of chemistry we're dealing with.
I may be nuts for saying this, but things are moving a little too fast.
And neither can summon the appropriate amount of energy or emotional response for the vengeance vendetta they're supposed to have against Vlad. Like, it's supposed to be very personal for both of them. For Vampirella, he killed her stepdad and the entire High Council, and he turned Adam's dad into a vampire and forced him to have to stake him.
Plunged the stake through his heart.
That's a lot, and yet Adam stares at Vlad with the intensity of someone looking at another person who took the last slice of pizza. So this movie has gratuitous boobs, which is funny to say in a Vampirella outing. But what I mean is that the movie has to manufacture excuses for the boobs to show up, and they are bad and flimsy. Like when Adam comes home to his apartment after Vampirella throwing herself at him, which he refuses, there's just a vampire waiting to kidnap him, and then she takes down her shirt for no reason. It's not to seduce him or anything like that, it just happens, and he reacts in a way that only Adam could. Because toplessness will save this movie. No, it won't. Someone caring would save this movie. Someone care, please. Someone other than Vlad care. So Vlad has gathered the 12 big vampire leaders on Earth to unveil his master plan. Not that it really matters. They don't need to be there at all. He could have said this to an empty room or just to his people and it would have been exactly the same. But he has these Dracolian satellites up in orbit, and his plan is that they're gonna fire down, they're gonna blot out the sun in certain regions, causing a kind of nuclear winter-esque effect, and then they will have the advantage and they will take over. This is because when they arrived on Earth, him and his kind of mutated, and that's why they can't be out in daylight and the like. And then when they bit people and passed it on, that was now a defect that these new vampires had. Also, side note, Vampirella says that religious iconography should have no impact on people from Draculon, that it's something unique to the vampires of Earth for reasons. But they torture Demos, who is from Draculon, with holy water. Did he just not know? He's been on Earth for millennia. Holes everywhere. Don't pick at them, it'll all fall apart. Vampirella is trying to rescue Adam because she cares about him or something like that, but she gets distracted when she tries to kill Vlad, and so she ends up getting captured instead, and he takes her blood supply and leaves her alone in a room with Adam, and oh no, if she doesn't feed in 24 hours, she's going to just drop dead. So she's trying to resist the urge to feed, and I think this is the most emotion that we ever see out of her this entire movie. So Adam chains her up and then makes out with her, because that's the time for that, and then ends up just offering her to feed from him anyway. He's just like, here, feed from me because you need it. They could have done that so long ago and then broken out. I also love that they always have to turn away to do the vampire effect because they just don't have the budget to show a transformation full face on. The writer talked about this. He said, when you see how lousy those bat transformations are, you'll realize that we're just a hip little $1 million drive-in movie. I love the description. I love his attitude.
Vampirella.
It's time for a Vlad and Vampirella showdown, and Purge shows up and they're gonna deal with the overflow vampires. And there was a scientist who invented a solar light gun and he gets to shoot it once at one vampire. Hooray, arc complete. Vampirella stakes Vlad and then he gets struck by lightning and it's hilarious. Yay, she defeated him. The end. Roll credits. Hi, excuse me, I have a question. The satellites were left on a timer and they were just gonna go off. Is anybody gonna do anything about that, or are we still doomed? These were not all the vampires on the Earth. Doesn't matter. Apparently there is supposed to be a sequel to this that just never happened for obvious reasons. But oh well, Vampirella avenged her family, and look at how happy she is. This movie, I will watch it again. It's not good, but it's a fun sit together with your friends and laugh kind of outing. You can tell the writer was a fan of Vampirella. I don't think he was an aficionado, but he cared. There were attempts to work in her backstory, and the overall let's blot out the sun with satellites is comic booky and fun. Daltrey is excellent, and he is having the best time, and he can sometimes pull that out against some of the other actors he's working with. Unfortunately, not Vampirella. She stays very wooden and blank the entire time, which does not work, as this Vampirella is supposed to be full of emotion. Just all his passion. Her dad's dead. Vlad's brought vampires into this planet and now it's perverted. She spent centuries asleep on Mars. She loves Van Helsing, a man just as wooden as her. But she doesn't emote, and so you can't connect, and so the whole thing kind of falls flat because she's the title character. You can look past a low budget and bad effects if you can really empathize with the characters. But alas, no.
This is what I am. And this is who I am.
This movie was made in about $1 million, and it shows. You know, in regards to Talisa, I'm not sure it's all on her. The director has been quite vocal about saying that she was miscast from the start. He said, my take on Vampirella is that it's a mess. The last time I watched it was to do the commentary, which was a while ago. It's a film I cannot watch. everything went wrong. Everything. I like Talisa Soto as a human being. She's very pretty. She's very sexy, but she's not Vampirella. He wanted to use an actress called Julie Strain, who some of you may know is the muse behind the heavy metal magazines. He felt that she had the physique, specifically in the chest region. And I mean, this is the man who directed The Breastfed Wives, Cleavage Field. I mean, that attitude towards Talisa may have bled through in how he directed her, or in how comfortable she felt on set. But she's not the only one giving a barely there performance. Adam is as well, and so are some of the others. It just feels like the director didn't want to be there, and that maybe a lot of other people didn't either, and it shows through. It's a bizarre piece, and definitely not the best showing of Vampirella. If you want Vampirella, go read the comic books. Unless you're a fan of cheese and watching movies of questionable quality, which I am. Vampirella may be a pretty simple and at its core cheesy and cheesecakey prospect, but it deserves better than this. Even Wynorski thinks so. One more quote. It was really a nasty, nasty picture to work on, and it came out badly too. I wish I could go back and redo it with the CGI of today, but even then, I just don't ever feel like going back to that. So he won't be involved in the remake. I do hope that some of the ideas from this maybe get brought forward though. There were some internal inconsistencies, yes, and the plot had some issues, but there were some good ideas here that could be expanded upon. Like Trax, the good vampire who she kills, who was trying to live his life as a human. The politics between the space vampires and the earth vampires, many of whom don't believe that the original sires came from space and think it was just a legend to scare them. The idea that Vlad was opposed to this synthetic blood supply because it meant an end to killing, because it wasn't about having a food source, and instead was about hurting people. Vampirella, now away from home, forced to live in a new culture where she is considered a monster of legend. You can make a good Vampirella movie. This just is not it. Maybe one day. Until then, come on, bleed for me. Can you believe that people complained that this costume wasn't comic book accurate enough? I love it. I also love that this movie is 2 years before Blade, the movie that will make people sit up and remember that superhero movies can be good and a genre to take seriously. Again. Until the MCU solidifies this concept, that waxes and wanes. You'll have some good ones and some bad ones, but there's not a whole lot of faith in the concept in general. But those were just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. Had you seen this movie? Did you enjoy it? Hate it? Meh it? Feel a bit bad for Talisa Soto? Do you just want to read more of this man's movie titles? Share all your thoughts down below. And while you're down there, please do all YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Discussing adaptations with me. Yes, I will see you next time. Bye-bye.